Hello and welcome to Happy Cells and Souls. I am Julie Powers and I am a licensed Zumba instructor and a business partner with the Juice Plus company. And my mission in life is to inspire healthy living and to help people understand that life is better when they're dancing through it. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. Because I believe that we only get one body while we're here on earth, and we're supposed to take care of it. And I also believe that while we're here, we're supposed to be happy and joyful and actually enjoy our time here. So that's why I am recording these conversations with people. You see, I've had the honor and privilege of meeting a lot of different people over my lifetime, and I have found that it's really interesting when we open up and we pay attention to what people have to say, whether we are sharing the same backgrounds culturally, in religion, politics, social status, it doesn't matter. Everybody has something to share, and so we can learn from everyone. And so I get to have these conversations with people and share them with you. So today, I get to talk to the one person who has known me for my entire life, except for my parents, that is still alive on the planet today. And that is my big brother, Kevin Ross, coming to us from Southern California. And so I'm talking to Kevin today because he has an interesting story to share about his life. At least I think it's interesting. And so I want to share it with you guys out there. And so when we were little, Kevin was the one who was always working in the Super 8 film that we had as kids. We had a Super 8 movie camera, and he was always making movies. And then we went to VHS, and he was using the video recorder, and he was making movies. He was doing stop action claymation stuff and all kinds of things. And so then he went off to college at the University of Missouri, Columbia, and he graduated with a journalism degree. And then he just ran off to California and went to grad school at USC, University of Southern California, to get his master's degree in film and cinematography. And so he decided to stay in Hollywood, and he wanted to be an editor. And so guess what? That's what he did. He went on to be an editor. That's what he did. So I'm going to read off some of the things that Kevin has gotten to work on over the years. But a lot of you who already know me or know him will already remember that he is an Emmy-nominated editor for season 1 and season 2 of Stranger Things, which is a show that was on Netflix, and you can still find it there today. But he's also been working most recently on shows Sacred Lies and Perpetual Grace. But way back when, I'm going to go back to the beginning. There are shows such as The Santa Claus 2, Vanilla Sky, Mrs. Doubtfire, Speed, Miracle on 34th Street, The Cable Guy, 9 Months, Truman Show, Simon Birch, Anywhere But Here, Snow Day. Let's see. Then we have, all these TV shows, and every TV show that he was working on, I tried to watch. Some of them didn't last very long, not because of the editing. The editing was great. But such as, let's see, Californication, which I got to go to the wrap party one season with Kevin, and got to see David Duchovny and Téa Leon, and I don't even know who else. Halt and Catch Fire, Taken, The X-Files, lots of stuff, Kevin. You've been a busy guy. And I know that the whole COVID thing has been kind of a nightmare for the entire industry, all across the board. But still, one day soon, everything will start rolling, right? Literally and figuratively. So can you share with the people watching this video how you really did get started in editing? I mean, I gave the sort of the outline, but tell us how that really got started for you.
Well, editing was one choice in a professional line, but I just wanted to be in the entertainment industry. I didn't know what part of it I wanted to be in. I mean, when I came from journalism school to go to grad school at USC, I thought I was going to be a writer-director. I really thought I was going to spend my days writing scripts and directing movies. Now, that was the hope. But as I was working in film school, I ended up editing a lot of student films. And I found I was pretty good at it, and the people liked the work that I did. And then I was able to go and do an internship in a real cutting room on a TV movie one summer. I didn't get paid. I worked 3 days a week. I was taking summer school, just to try to get ahead in my graduate program. And it was called The Lady Forgets. And it was, I think, on Fox or CBS. But it was exciting. And I got to hold the film in my hands. This was back in the days when you actually worked with film that actually was
Right.
tactile and actually existed, 35 millimeter film. Nowadays, it's all digital and you work on computers and you don't have that sensibility, but
Well, unless you're working on the IMAX, right?
IMAX or, as we have a sibling who works on the only movies that are made still on film right
Right.
now,
The
all the
big
Chris Nolan movies.
You're right.
So, it does exist, but that's
So
one end.
that was when the term the cutting room floor, if a scene ended up on the cutting room floor, it was literally the film that was getting cut from the show and it dropped on the cutting room floor.
But it never dropped on the
I'm
floor
just
because
teasing.
as an assistant, we put it in bins. But yes, you could say it ended up on the floor.
Right.
But and it kind of counted. It was true. But so, when you hear an actor say, "Oh, my best work was on the cutting room floor," you don't know whether to take that as an insult because you're the editor who put it on that cutting room floor, or you
Right.
didn't choose their best takes.
Right.
But you're like, why would I try to make your performance worse? I'm trying
Right.
to make it the best it can possibly be. And that's the job of the editor. So I started as an intern, and then I worked my way into assisting. And a lot of the features you mentioned, when I got out of film school, I was able to move into assisting on bigger features because I had done this work before while I was in school. And then I got into the union, the Editors Guild union. And that was like, I get to work on real movies. And so my first assisting gig, I worked on a movie called Lawnmower Man, which was non-union,
I
but
saw it. I
you
saw
did.
it.
And at the time it was okay. Now that everyone makes fun of that movie because it's dated and the graphics, the visual effects were very, very coarse and not very impressive at all. However, that got me into the union, and Mrs. Doubtfire was my first big union feature. And at the time, there was a transition going on in Hollywood where editing was switching over to this non-linear, this digital type of format to work on. And I happened to have been one of the 5 assistant editors in Hollywood who had cut feature films and worked on features that learned this system at the very beginning of it. And so Fox Studios hired me to go to Mrs. Doubtfire and teach that editor, who's a young guy himself, so he could pick it up pretty quickly, how to work on a nonlinear system. And that led to working on Speed, and then Mrs. Doubtfire, Miracle on 34th Street, 9 Months, another Hugh Grant movie. I was going on location. It was exciting. I was going to San Francisco and living for 6 or 7 months.
That was
Chicago.
for Mrs. Doubtfire. You were in San Francisco. And
Right.
when you were working on the Truman Show, you were actually in Australia for a while, right?
When we did Truman Show, we were in Florida Panhandle for 3 months shooting there. We came back to Los Angeles and shot for a couple of months. And then we went to Australia, Sydney, Australia, because the director, Peter Weir, always cut his director's cut, which was his 8 weeks that he had to make them film how he wanted it. He always had a tradition of cutting it in Sydney, and the studios paid for them to fly it.
I
And
always
I was the
wondered
only,
why you were there.
and I was the only American on the crew, so it wasn't like everybody else was Australian or European, so they had a passport already, so they could have a work visa. I had to get a work visa and go there. But what happened was, while I was there, Titanic was supposed to come out that summer. Titanic had a lot of delays, and it was the same studio, Paramount. And so while we were there, Paramount said, all right, we're going to push Titanic 6 months to release at Christmas time. And that was supposed to be when Truman Show came out, but they said, we're going to hold you off till the spring. So take as long as you guys need in Australia to do your movie. Well, that 8 weeks I was supposed to be there turned out to be 8 months. And it was an awesome 8 months. And, it was like one of those, it was so exciting to go somewhere and live on location and experience new cultures and just enjoy a new lifestyle and new friends and get a world view and not be trapped, in my small world kind of bubble. I got to
Right,
experience
right.
something else. So that worked out really well.
Which was a little bit ironic because I had lived in Melbourne, Australia for a while. And then not very long after that, you ended up living in Sydney for a while, which is kind of odd for two siblings from Farmington, Missouri to
That,
be living in Australia for an extended period of time. I think you had the better end of the deal on that, though. You
but I
mentioned
do,
that you,
I'm going to say the small world, my biggest moment of having a small world connection is you mentioned you knew one person in Melbourne and
in
I
Sydney,
tried to
right?
contact her. I'm sorry?
In Sydney.
Uh, no, you knew someone in Melbourne, I
Oh,
thought. But
right,
anyway,
right.
uh, and I tried to contact her, say, I'm in Sydney, but she never got back to me. And then, like 4 months into my stay there, someone I had befriended in Sydney in my apartment building, she calls me and goes, Hey, do you have a sister that used to live in Melbourne? I was just telling this person in my car, and it was your friend was driving in the car
My
with
former
my
boss.
own, yeah,
Yeah.
your former boss was with my only friend in Sydney, Australia. It was such a
But
bizarre
that was
moment.
before the internet. So, I mean,
Yes,
really, like before the
exactly.
internet really took off. So, really interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were part of the Editors Union or the Editors Guild, right?
Hmm.
But you're also a member of the American Cinema Editors, which, if I can read my handwriting right, it says it's an honorary society of film editors that are voted in based
Yes.
on qualities of professionalism and education that you share with others, and like all these things that you got like voted in on. So that's a pretty cool thing. When did you become a member of ACE?
In 2017, and that was after my first Emmy nomination and my first Eddie nomination, which is the American Cinema Editors' own awards. And it's the one that if you see credits and they say Kevin D. Ross ACE behind it,
Right,
ACE, that is an honorary fraternity, Um, and yes, you do have to be voted in or asked to join type of
right,
thing.
right.
Uh, you know, so that was a big deal. So I was excited to be part of that. But it's also because for editing, I'm always trying to elevate that profession and have more, stature in the Hollywood rank. And I've been a member of my board of directors of my union. I've been elected to that 3 different times for 3-year stints. And, I think it's important. And also it's a way to mentor young assistant editors who are coming up and give them a shot
Well,
to
I
move in.
know any young kid that's going off to college that wants to be in the film industry, they contact me and say, "Don't you have some brothers out in Hollywood?" And I always send them your way. And you guys are
That's
always
right.
really nice about trying to connect with these young people that are heading out to follow their dreams. And sometimes they work out really well, and sometimes it takes a lot longer for others. So since this channel, Happy Cells and Souls, is all about happiness and joy and fun stuff, I'd like
Hmm.
you to share a kind of a fun story or two that you can remember when you were working on one of your projects. And I know of one when you were working on the Truman Show that was kind of a
Oh,
cool thing, if you want to share that. But maybe there's another one that you have that you would like to share.
well, I've got a couple of anecdotes, but like the Truman Show. What happened there was in the editing room when we're working on the show, we do temporary dialogue that we know that is going to be replaced by real actors later on, or we'll do the lines and read them into a microphone so we can work with that dialogue. And so we were in Australia and we needed a line from a call in, a United States call in person to a scene called True Talk with Ed Harris's character. And so I just temped, it's called temping. I tempt the line about, this like kind of Southern sounding person. And it stayed in there for all the previews. And then when we got to the final mix where we put all the final music and sound in, they had other actors read the lines, but Peter Weir, the director, is like, no, just leave Kevin's voice in there because I like what Kevin did. And I had to say that it was like a caller from South Carolina, and I'm terrible at impressions. And I was like, that doesn't really sound like it, Peter, right? That's like, I'm doing a Midwestern voice. I'm not doing, a Southern voice. And he goes, I don't care. I like it. Keep it in. So my voice is in
Yeah,
there.
That was great because whenever we went to see that show, and of course we always plan to stay and watch the credits so we can see your name roll up, but then to have your voice in the movie was kind of funny as well. So you have another anecdote you want to share?
Oh, sure. Well, in 2000 is when I finally made the jump from assistant editing, which I had been on those shows, to full-time editing. And I fell into television, and that's just where I was. And so I've cut hundreds of hours of television over the last 20 years. But on one of my shows called Up All Night was about a husband wife who had a new baby, and they were trying to deal with having a newborn while they were trying to keep their professions going. And it's a comedy of errors, and it
And
was a
that was
fun.
the girl that was on Married with Children.
Yeah, Christina Applegate and Will Arnett were the
Right,
stars.
right.
And Maya Rudolph was in it too, and it went for 2 seasons. But the second season, they were doing a scene with a birthday party, a children's birthday party, and they had kids, but they weren't. When you see children doing extra work, or you see like a group of kids, they're not actually allowed to speak because then
Mhm.
they have to pay them a lot of money.
Right.
So you get to pay them a lot less if they don't talk and they're just on camera. So they had all these kids pretend like they were singing a song, and then later on they were going to add voices. Well, I had like 4-year-old twins at the time, and now they're 12, but at the time they fit that age range. And the producers came in and goes, Kevin, do your kids want to come sing Muffin Man? And I was like, sure they do. And we went in, and for 15 minutes they sang Do You Know the Muffin Man? And then their little kid voices are now in that one episode of that show,
Yay.
which I love. But it even got better because then they got paid as actors for one day.
Ooh.
That money is off, so it's not a lot of money, but it's setting aside for they can buy books for college or something with it someday.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they need books by then, right? Everything might be digital.
Mm,
So I know
good
that
point.
also when the twins were born, it was pretty much an easier way for you to continue in editing was to stay in television, right? Than to move back into film, into
Well,
your film or
sure, because television's always based in California, it seems to be.
right,
But and features, if you're on a big film, you'll go on location with that feature.
right,
However, that was never a sticking point to why. I mean, because if I had gotten a big feature, I would have gone on location.
right,
But I could have
right,
also taken the kids and Janet, my wife. We could have all gone. It just didn't happen. When
right,
I did Stranger Things, when I did the first season of Stranger Things, I had to move to Atlanta for 3 months while we shot the beginning of that. And so, but by then I could FaceTime the kids all the time and check in, and it worked out okay.
right, right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
we have about 2 more minutes for our 20-minute
Okay.
mark. I know you said that this could be like this super extra feature conversation where we could talk for an hour, but
Yeah. Why are
do
you
try to
stopping?
limit it. I do try to limit it just so that people, can do other things. So if someone you knew said, I really want to be an editor, what would be one piece of advice that you would recommend for that person to follow?
I would say, don't let anyone tell you you can't be. And then you need to practice, practice, practice. And now it's so easy to get that practice because you can go and shoot things yourself on your own, on your phone. You can create scenes with material you shot on your phone, put it into your computer and edit it. I mean, there's technical things to learn, and nowadays you have so much at your fingertips. You have like little tutorials online to learn and to know how to do this stuff. Back when I was learning, there wasn't an editing track
Right,
in any of the programs. Now, if you go to USC, you can say, I want to be an editor, and they put you in an editing track. If you go to AFI, which is another college, every university seems to have that. I mean, I get contacts from people all the time saying, "Hey, I really want to be an editor," and I'm always amazed. I'm always like, "You're 22 and you want to be an editor? Wow! I
right,
didn't expect it. I fell into it, and I'm happy I did. But it wasn't my life goal. But it's their life
right.
goal. So that's
Well,
wonderful."
you're never too old to or whatever. You can start. You can start now being a writer director.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. But,
Well, you know, one thing too about being an editor that I noticed when I was out there in 2012 for a conference, and I went to your editing studio when you were working on Southland, you
oh, okay.
had like 6 screens up, and I was there for a total of 15 minutes, and you were listening to the same audio track for the same scene over and over and over. So you have to have patience, and you have to not be driven nuts by the same thing over and over and over again.
Editing is misrepresented a lot of times. People don't really understand the art of editing, but it's very technical, but it has a lot of improvisation you're allowed to do in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you have to embrace. And you can't, you if you don't like putting jigsaw puzzles together, then editing is not something you're going to want to do.
Right.
Because it is really trying to find the best performance and to service the material you have in the best way possible. And
Because
that's my
really the
biggest.
editing can make it or break it for
And,
any production. If
and
you
I've
have the best actors, the best writing, the best directing, the best photography, all of it can be perfect. But if you don't put it together in the right way, the different angles, right, then
right.
completely falls apart. The story
And
falls apart.
well, it's finding that emotional core to every scene and to make those characters someone you care about and you want to see. You can cut it and edit it in a way that just gets you through the scene and they say all the words. But if you're not trying to find that emotional core, then you've wasted your chance.
Right.
So
Right.
that's the magic of editing.
The
Is
magic of editing. Yay, that's how we're going to end this, is the magic of
playing it,
editing.
playing with your heartstrings. All right.
Perfect, perfect. So, for those of you watching, next time you watch any of those shows that we mentioned, or you can go to imdb.com and you can look up Kevin D. Ross and you can check out all of his filmography, and you can watch those and see his name roll up and go, "Yay, Kevin."
Please do. Yeah.
That's what I do. All right, thank you, Kevin.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.